Welcome back, everyone. Tonight's practice is going to focus on Yin Yoga, which is a little bit different than our vinyasas if you're used to doing more of a chaturanga type flow. Yin Yoga targets our bones and the connective tissue that connects our bones to our different ligaments, the fascia tissue. So it's definitely a different style. If you're used to doing the vinyasa type classes, this is going to be a lot slower. We're going to hold poses for a longer period of time. So it's really important in this class to utilize the breath work and the pranayama so that you can cultivate a drishti, whether it's keeping your eyes open or keeping your eyes shut. I will be doing this practice without the use of props, but I will also have other videos with Yin Yoga where we do utilize props. And it is recommended that in this particular style of a class, that you do allow the props to essentially help you get into the pose. But for those of you that may not have props available for you readily, I wanted to create a flow that allows you to kind of just do it in your own space on your mat. So with that being said, I am going to ask you to come to an easy seated position, cross-legged. If you typically cross one leg over the other, switch it up tonight just to kind of provide a little bit of different balance in the body, and begin to just close your eyes. We're going to start off with a brief meditation. I like to do this with each one of my classes because I really feel like once we kind of get our bodies in the frame of mind that we need to be quiet and calm and really kind of embrace the breath work, it allows us to stay in the positions for longer periods of time, which is very helpful for Yin, because there might be some poses tonight that you want to get out of quickly. And the best thing that you can do is really just to breathe through it, allow your breath to travel fully through your body, maybe reaching those targeted areas that are causing discomfort, and then focus on that breath work and kind of tune your mind out so those anxieties go away. So when you're ready, you can keep your palms facing up to receive or down for grounding. We're just going to breathe in through our nose, pausing at the top, and exhale through your nose. Inhale, same process through your nose, pausing at the top, and exhale through your nose. Repeat this process quietly to yourself for a few breaths. What you should notice is with each inhale and exhalation, your breath starts to become audible because you're taking time to focus on it, really feeling that air enter through your nostrils and going out through your nostrils. Maybe you're channeling it deep into your lungs, filling your lungs up like a balloon. And on the exhale, you're letting go of any unwanted air that no longer serves a purpose. And maybe if it's getting a little difficult for you to stay still, you think about a safe word. So maybe on your inhale, you say let, and on your exhale, you say go. And repeat that mantra over and over again, connecting each word to your inhales for let and exhales for go. And this will allow you to focus in on the breath work by blocking out any noise in the mind, anything that's preventing us from really getting focused into our practice tonight. Yin Yoga is the opposite of vinyasa, which is a yang yoga, and this is typically done in cooler environments rather than if you're familiar with vinyasa practice. A lot of times they might put the heat on because it helps open up the muscles. With Yin, we're activating the joints, our bones, and the fascia tissue connecting it. So the reason why we hold the pose for long periods of time is as we breathe into these positions, our body starts to open up. And this connective tissue, this fascia, is really important for our bodies to really work the way that they're designed. When we hold these positions and then we come out doing counter poses, it allows new prana, new energy, new blood to come into those joint areas that may be stiff or dehydrated and flush those areas with fresh prana, which then allows the body to heal itself and rejuvenate its cells. So only adding benefit to our life. Continue that inhale and exhale. And over the next couple of breaths, start to cultivate what you came to this practice here for tonight and set an intention. Maybe you want to get a little bit deeper into certain positions. Maybe you're hoping to expand and open up, whether it's on the mat or off. Or maybe you just need to give yourself some time for self-care and self-love. Whatever your intention is, I want you to keep it in the back of your mind throughout our entire practice tonight. And use that as your focus. Use that as your drive to hold these positions, to see if you can get your body to open up just a little bit more. Maybe challenge yourself, but again, don't overdo it to the point where you cause any damage or discomfort. It shouldn't hurt, but it should feel like a nice deep stretch. So you'll know your limits and you'll know how long you need to push yourself. On an inhale, raise the arms up to the sky, opening your eyes, looking nice and straight and tall with a straight spine, up towards the ceiling. And on the exhale, lowering our hands back down to center. We're going to begin tonight's practice with a toe stand. And this is a really difficult position. A lot of people will immediately want to get right out of this pose. It's going to cause a lot of anxiety. So my suggestion for you is to cultivate what we just did, that brief meditation. Maybe close your eyes. That might help you and provide some support. We're going to hold this toe stand for 2 minutes. So it is going to be a little bit length of time, and you're going to maybe want to come right out of it, but just keep in the back of your mind that your breath work is your guide. So make sure you're focusing on your inhale and your exhale, maybe pausing in between, really slowing yourself down, because as soon as we get into this posture, your body's going to want to get into that fight or flight mentality, and we want to keep it more into a parasympathetic nervous system where we're calm, cool, collected, focusing on our breath. So in order to get into toe stand, we're just going to rock forward as if we were getting into tabletop. You're going to flex your feet, and you're going to let your toes just drop back on the mat so that your toes are flat, but the rest of your sole and your heel is facing perpendicular. And then we're going to rest our backside right on the tops of our feet. So you should feel this immediately. And we're just going to hold this pose for 2 minutes. Breathing in, pausing at the top, and exhaling out. You can keep your eyes open, or if it helps you, to close your eyes so that you can better gain a nice solid focus that allows you to really think about your inhalations and your exhalations. You do whatever serves your body best. But again, breathing into this pose is going to allow you to stay in it. If you do feel like it's too much, it's causing anxiety, it's not really targeting, the length of time that you can reach, then come out quickly, but then go right back in, just resting your hands on your legs, breathing in and out, in and out. We're halfway there, in and out, in and out. The breath work should be audible, so you should be able to hear yourself. If you can hear yourself, you know that you're doing this in the correct position, the correct way. If it's not audible, maybe try to make it a little bit heavier. Maybe try to breathe in one more inhalation, holding it at the top, and then exhaling and really feeling that breath leave the body. A few more breaths. On your last inhale, breathe deep in. Exhale, lean forward, release those toes so that they're flat to the mat, and just come back. Maybe rock from side to side. You're going to feel an intense rush of energy, which is also blood flow, and it's really good. Feel free to come into tabletop and maybe just rotate the hips around, making any kind of subtle adjustments that you need. My feet, I can feel have this nice energy going through them. It feels like all this fresh blood is going right to the joints of our toes, really cleaning out any toxins that might be in there. And that's the point of this type of yoga. So when you're ready, I want you to make your way into a child's pose. Tonight's asanas are really going to target our stomach, our kidney, our gallbladder. And these are all areas where we kind of don't always think about, but we really should give some time to this practice to do so. And it will definitely be more of like a cleansing feeling at the end. I'd recommend drinking a lot of water just to help you kind of flush everything out. But when you're ready, we're just going to begin by moving into a child's pose. So your knees are going to come to the width of your mat. We're going to hold this pose for about 5 minutes. If you feel like as you're in the pose, you can open up a little deeper. Feel free to take those adjustments. Maybe you can move your fingers a little bit more forward as the minutes go by. Maybe your chest gets closer to the ground. But again, listen to your body, and if it's telling you to just stay where you're at, stay where you're at. If you feel like you're more open and you can move through it, then do so. But listen to what your body is telling you. If it's painful, then you're doing it wrong. Okay? So when you're ready, knees come to the width of the mat. Your feet want to be on the mat, toes facing down. Seat rests on top of your feet. You're going to walk your hands out in front of you. And maybe you just touch your forehead to the mat. Maybe you can get your chest right on the mat. And so you're really stretched out, almost if you're in puppy pose. But again, take this where you need. Focus on your breath. Inhale, pausing at the top, and exhale. Really stretching those hands forward. Walk those finger pads out in front of you. And just breathe into this position. We're a little over halfway there, so if you think you can expand your knees out a little bit wider, connecting your chest closer to the mat, but still not compromising the pose, then do so. But again, if this is where you're comfortable, then just stay here, really feeling the hips opening up, the arms extending forward, stretching out our armpits, our back, our neck. On an inhale, slowly begin to lift up, walking your fingers back towards your hands. We're going to take our knees inside, maybe sitting here if you want. You can lean back, take a camel for a counter stretch. It's really opening up your chest the opposite way. This is more of like an adaptive heroes, but you can also go up into camel. Just pushing those hips forward. You can also come down to your seat, bending the knees in front of you, and just taking your knees and dropping them from side to side. So working out those hip joints. And when you're ready, we're going to come up to Tadasana. Now, we're coming into Tadasana because the next couple of poses is going to be a series of forward folds where we hang for a little bit to really get the blood flow to work in an opposite direction. Inversion poses are really good for a lot of reasons, and two being stress and anxiety. A lot of the asanas that you will be experiencing tonight target the hips and opening them up, and a lot of times we hold stress and anxiety in our hips. So by doing some inversions and hip openers, we're going to really target any of those energies that are blocking us. So when you're ready, just coming up to a Tadasana pose, nice and tall. Okay, you want to keep your arms at your sides. If you want, we can do a couple of raises with our arms, just inhaling them up towards the sky, exhaling them down, inhaling your arms up, looking up towards the ceiling, spine nice and straight, just feeling the stretch, and on the exhale, lowering your hands back down. We're going to move into a forward fold in just a minute here. But before we do that, I want you to just try to take a couple moments in Tadasana, keeping a nice straight spine. And maybe you close your eyes. Maybe you keep it open and focus on your drishti. But just start to come back to that breath work that we did in the beginning of class during our meditation. And just stand still, breathing in and out. Maybe thinking about those words, let go. Inhaling, let. Exhaling, go. And just find a balance. Rooting your feet down into the ground. Standing nice and tall, spine is straight, shoulders are back and away from our ears. Everything is relaxed. And if you close your eyes, maybe see if you can just stand here and almost channel a weightless feeling where you know you're grounded, but you're so focused on your breath that you almost come out of your body for a minute. And continue this cycle of rotations with your inhales and your exhales for a few more moments. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we're going to forward fold, swan diving our arms down to the ground. Keeping your hips width distance apart, your hands are going to touch on the floor in front of you. The goal is to try to get your legs as straight as they can, but if it helps, have a slight bend in the knees. You also want to try to get your chest as close to your thighs as possible. But this might be difficult for a lot of you. So again, go where your body's telling you. We're going to hold this position for 5 minutes. So maybe as you go through these breathing, inhalations and exhalations, you can get a little bit deeper. But the key here is to really let the neck and head hang loose and just try to get your body as close to your thighs as you can. If you can't go all the way down because you don't have the flexibility to do so, maybe rest your hands on your shins, maybe on your ankles, and then hopefully over time you'll be able to touch your hands right to the floor. So when you're ready, we're going to begin. Just continue breathing, keeping the jaw loose, keeping the neck loose. Your feet should really be taking the weight of your body. So make sure that you keep that in mind so that you're not putting too much of the weight into your hands, which will cause you to become unbalanced. You want to stay rooted into the soles of your feet. Just allow your hands to act as a guide, bringing you closer to the ground, bringing your chest closer to your thighs. Maybe you can feel your body getting closer to one another and you have a subtle bend in the arms. Bringing your chest closer, again, keeping your neck loose and light.
Few more breaths. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And on the next inhale, I really want you to go slow because we've been upside down for a good 5 minutes. I want you to slowly start to raise your body up, lifting one vertebrae at a time and moving like a snail until you come up to Tadasana. Our next pose that we're going to come into is Malasana. So I'm going to turn to face the camera so that you guys can see me. But with Malasana, you want to extend your feet to the width of your mat, toes pointing out. And we're just going to squat down, but we don't want to collapse in the pose. And you can place your arms here underneath. Now, this is going to be a tough position. We're going to aim to hold it for about 5 minutes. And remember, if it helps, close your eyes, focus on your breath. But we're just going to open ourselves up. If you need to, use your arms to kind of push your knees open. If you need to, you can adjust your feet maybe just a little bit wider, which will help take the pressure off of your hips a little bit as you're getting deeper into this pose. Make sure not to let the base touch the mat. We still want to be elevated enough that our chest is up, but really getting into this posture and opening up those hips, using our elbows to keep our knees open. This is really activating our hip socket, our hip joint. I'm just rotating my wrists. If you feel like that serves you, feel free to just move them in the opposite direction. Maybe go back and forth and bend them right and left. And then when you're ready, coming back to a solid position. On the inhale, dropping our hands to the floor and just pushing ourselves back up. We're gonna come into another forward fold for 5 minutes. If you want, you can slowly rise back up to Tadasana. Maybe take a slight back bend, pushing those hips forward, really feeling that stretch, or maybe you're like me and you've got some cracks happening. And when you're ready, bending forward and going into another forward fold, keeping our arms nice and light, head and neck nice and relaxed, hips or feet hips width distance apart. You can have a subtle bend in the legs. And just breathe. Maybe see if during this forward fold, you can get maybe another inch closer. Maybe you can straighten those legs out. But again, go where your body is telling you. Two more full rounds of breaths. And on the third inhale, slowly begin to rise up one vertebrae at a time. And maybe you just want to twist right to left. Maybe you want a little bit of a back bend.
just to counterbalance the pose. And then we're going to work our way down to the mat. We're going to come into seated swan, which if you've done any vinyasa practice and you're familiar with pigeon, this is the same type of pose, just called something a little bit different in yin. But we're going to start on the right side first. So I invite you to come into this position by taking your right calf and your right bottom half of your leg, flexing your right foot, and making it parallel to the top of your mat. Now, if you can't get it parallel, that's okay. Maybe you just have a little bit more of a bend into the right leg until you can get yourself to a position that it can be parallel with the mat. But you want to keep the right foot flexed, and then you're going to slowly walk your left foot out. Now you can keep it so that your left toes are facing the mat and laying there, or if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can flex the left foot and activate that leg. The choice is yours, but we're going to hold both the right side and the left side for about 5 minutes. We're going to begin in a seated swan position. You want to make sure that your body is upright, your arms should be weightless, they're just there at either side to really help you hold position. You want to make sure too that your hips are in a neutral position, both kind of looking forward, okay? Your right leg is bent, but you don't want to be leaning to the right or leaning too far to the left. You want to keep a nice balance so that the weight is equally distributed to both sides. And we're just going to hold this position, focusing on our breath, really feeling that hip opening up again. Now we're about halfway through holding this right leg into seated swan. If you feel like you're okay here in seated swan and you just want to stay there, that's fine. If you'd like to go for a little bit of a deeper variation of this pose, I'm going to invite you to kind of drop your hands to the ground so that your forearms are resting on the mat. Now maybe you just stay here and continue to breathe for the next couple of minutes. And also, maybe you feel a little bit more that you want your body to have a challenge. You can begin to walk your arms out, far out in front of you, dropping your chest to the ground for a deep, deep variation of this pose. And just breathing into this space. You're going to want to come out probably quicker than you want. So again, focus on your breaths. Inhaling and exhaling. Keeping the hips balanced. Don't fall to the right or to the left. Keeping a nice neutral position in the hips. Hips should be facing forward. Maybe your chest comes to the mat. Wherever you're at,
Find your edge and take it to that point. With each exhale, you should feel your body just getting deeper and deeper into the pose, allowing you to get into those hips, connecting your chest lower to the ground. A few more breaths. On an inhale, slowly push yourself back up to that seated swan position. We're just going to hold it here for a minute before we come out. And on the next inhale, drop to the right side of your body and just flip that left leg around. You can bring it around and again, take a couple of different variations. Maybe you want to have butterfly pose and you just bend forward, stretching out those hips, or maybe you rotate your knees from side to side, just shaking out those joints. We're going to take the same pose, but this time do it on the left side. So when you're ready, bringing that left leg into position. Again, we want to keep the left bottom leg parallel to the top of our mat, keeping our left foot flexed. If you can't keep it in that exact parallel shape, it's okay to give it a subtle bend. Meet your body where it is at this moment on the mat. And dropping your right leg nice and straight behind. Again, you can keep the foot flexed if you want a little bit more of an activation, or you can just rest the toes on the mat like this. Your hips should be facing forward. You shouldn't be leaning to the left or to the right, trying to get your body as flat on the mat as possible. Again, your arms should be weightless, just merely supporting yourself sitting in this position. We're going to hold this position for the same amount of time. So when you're ready, just settling in. We're starting in a seated swan. And then again, if your body feels like you're up for it, halfway through, I'll cue us to lower into sleeping swan. But focus on your breath. Remember, hip openers are going to bring up a lot of emotion. You're going to want to maybe get out of the pose, but try to just breathe through it, maybe closing your eyes, taking the focus off of the pain areas or where you're feeling the energy working that fascia tissue, and just breathe through it, maybe thinking of that breath fully reaching that targeted point in our body, going right down to our hips, maybe even down to our toes. When you're ready,
If you're feeling like you want to go a little bit deeper, you can begin to drop those forearms to the mat, and maybe you just stay here bending a little bit forward for a minute before you go into full sleeping swan extension. So holding it here, or if you're ready, you can move into a full extension of sleeping swan by walking your arms out in front of you and bringing your chest closer to the mat. Listen to your body and do what it's telling you. Don't push yourself too far where it's causing pain. And just breathe into this position. On inhale, coming back to those forearms, maybe pausing here for a full round of breaths. And when you're ready, begin to walk yourself back up to our seated swan. Rock onto that left hip, moving our right leg forward to meet our left. Again, maybe windshield wipering our legs back and forth just to release any tension that's still in our body. Maybe bringing the soles of our feet to touch, taking a butterfly position, maybe folding forward. Or if you need, extending those legs out long, lifting your arms up, forward fold. Maybe begin by keeping the chest nice and straight. Chest is open up to the wall in front of you. Taking a couple of breaths like this. And then maybe folding forward. Really feeling that stretch in the back, in our spine. And on the exhale, moving into Savasana, our final resting pose. So you can stay here by keeping your legs to the width of the mat, feet opening up, arms falling to either side, palms facing up. You can adjust your shoulders so that they're both underneath of your back and away from your neck, really nice and relaxed, but grounding at the same time. Or during Savasana, if you'd like to take an inversion, I invite you to take legs up the wall. This is a great position that helps, again, circulate the blood flow and the prana upside down, kind of creating different movements in the body, which helps to flush out any toxins that we're holding on to still, and also helping to reduce stress and anxiety. It's really good too if you suffer from headaches or migraines, which most of the time are brought on by stress. So I recommend doing legs up the wall at least for 5 minutes a day, if not more, if you can hold it. But those are your two options. So find what best suits you for tonight's practice. I'm going to take the legs up the wall version for my Savasana. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my base right up against that flat wall. And in this case, I also have these doors. But you want to be right there. And then kind of just rock to your left, getting as close as you can, and shift those legs up. You can keep them about hips width distance apart and just rest your legs. You should be weightless. You can drop your arms side to side, but we're just gonna come into this for the next few moments. And again, focusing on our breath work. You can start to close your eyes if you're in regular Savasana, just settling in, coming back to that breath work, maybe thinking about those cue words, let and go. Breathing in, pausing, and exhaling. And just start to quiet the mind down, bring everything to a pause. And just breathe.
Start to bring your mind back into focus. Maybe taking a pause here just for a moment. And then begin to bring a little bit of life back into your fingertips and your toes. Slowly moving them around, bringing some energy back. And then maybe expanding that energy into rotating your wrists and your ankles. If you're in legs up the wall, maybe starting to bend your knees. And on an inhale, rotate to the right side body. And just stay here for a full breath, keeping your eyes closed. Thinking about that intention we set for this practice. And when you're ready, still keeping your eyes closed, make your way back to your mat in that seated position that we started out with in class, and at this time adjusting the position of your legs to do the opposite of what you did at the beginning of this practice. You can keep your palms on your knees facing up to receive or down for grounding, whatever is suiting you best tonight as we close out this practice. Bringing your hands together in prayer formation, bringing the thumb knuckles to your chest. Slightly bowing your heads to seal this practice. I thank you all for joining me tonight in this Yin Yoga series. We targeted opening up our hips, activating our bladder, our stomach, and our gallbladder, meridians in the body, which helps to really release any toxins that we might be holding onto. It was an honor guiding you tonight, and I hope that you will join me again on our mats. Bowing our heads to seal this practice. Namaste. Thanks, everyone. It was a great moment tonight with you all. I hope you got a lot out of this practice, and feel free to come back and join me for another flow. Have a good one.